guess my frame of reference on this it really has to be framed by my time spent in television news. And as you all know, co-anchor relationships and on-set relationships are really like arranged marriages in television. You have no say in who sits next to you. So I learned very early on that you really have to make an effort to make those relationships authentic and work. And I had a really great talent coach. This is back in the days when TV stations spent money on talent coaches. And her name was Flo Sykes, and she worked for AR&D in Dallas, Audience Research and Development. And she gave me the best advice I'd ever had. She was my very first talent coach, and she said, "Mark, your job on the set is to showcase the other three people sitting next to you. That's your job." And so I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, what does that really mean? So I would always engage in the newsroom. What did you do over the weekend? How's the family? So I got to know all my co-anchors to the extent that when we had crosstalk, that's the unscripted banter on set, when we had those opportunities, it was really genuine. And we could talk about all the cool stuff that we were all doing. And it just really made an effortless, sort of seamless chemistry happen on the set. So I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned about how to make a team work, especially in television. And that is, I don't think you can fake it. I don't think you can fake those relationships on the air. I think viewers are too smart and can see right through that. So my strategy over the years was just to be real and to really cultivate those friendships and those relationships. And one of the best teams that I was ever on was in Salt Lake City on the morning news there at the Fox station, and it was just an amazing experience. Three of my co-anchors, Megan Henderson, Allie McKay, and Henry Stone, they were all from Southern California. They ended up going to KTLA in Los Angeles and have been there for many, many years, at least a couple of them. And, it was effortless. Going to work was fun. We laughed our heads off in the morning, and viewership just went through the roof because the talent of that group was just so amazing. So that was just one of those time periods in my career that it was just magic. And that's something that I'll always remember. How about work that's required to make a team work? I'd love to dig a little bit deeper on some of the strategies that you all have employed over the years. I mean, there's a lot that has to happen in terms of communication, in terms of motivation, in terms of, I know, Elise, you've had management roles where you've had to manage people and, correct people and oversee mistakes and oversee things like that. Who wants to jump in with like what type of work is required to maintain a great team?
I want to say it's developing an understanding of where people excel. I used to run a glass department, actually, a production facility, and the team could not work together. And so they actually pulled me out of sales into the warehouse to work together with these people that just didn't gel. And part of why they didn't is because they were all doing the wrong things within the department and they weren't being utilized for their skills. And so I would sit down with them, have their one on ones with them, and I would point out their strengths, right? The things that other people had said they loved about that person. And I said, just focus on that stuff more. And these people started doing that and telling me this is where I'd actually like to be. And we started just moving people around. And after, it took a little bit of time because there was some personality clashes, but after a short period of time, people started working better together because they also understood each other, which before it was always pointing out what was so different, right? And now they knew how to communicate with each other. So that was a really fun project to do.
That's cool. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll go.
Yeah, along.
I was thinking, a phrase we use at work P2P is assume goodwill. And I think kind of the back half of that is also being accountable. I think that's both of those things make for good team communication and a authentic team dynamic. So, if you're on a team and you're working with other people, you definitely bump heads at any given time. And I think for me, I have to tell myself, like, in general, nobody is trying to sabotage the work environment or the project or whatever it is you're doing. Everybody's trying to work towards the good of whatever it is that we're collectively working on. So, assuming goodwill is a good practice, I think, on my part. And then I think having authentic communication and being accountable is good too. Like if, as for me, if I feel tension with a team member for any reason, I usually like to address it later on and say, "Hey, I just want to make sure that we're still friends after this. I like working with you," all those kinds of things. So I think as part of the communication pieces, owning your perception as well as, accepting that you might not show up the way you want to all the time and to be accountable for that.
That's really cool. One of my brothers works in aerospace manufacturing, and he got some great advice a long time ago from an HR consultant. And the consultant said, if you're gonna approach someone about a problem, focus on what's called observable behavior. Dave, I noticed that when we rolled out the new plan, your face got red and you started kind of shaking your head. And so, if you just focus on the actual observable behavior, then let them describe why that happened instead of like, how come you're being such a jerk, man? How come you're not on board with this? And instead of going at it from that way, it's brilliant advice from this HR consultant. Focus on the observable behavior and then turn it over to that person to pick it up from there. But I love that, Alon, assuming goodwill. And that's such an important. I spent a lot of years a long time ago, even in family interactions, trying to figure out, well, I wonder what their motive is. And then I just got to a point where like I'm exhausted and started just saying, I'm going to assume that you have goodwill. And when you prove that wrong, then we'll cross that bridge. And that's so much easier. Elise, what about you? Strategies for keeping the teams humming?
Well, we've heard, having the right butts in the right seats, having the right people in the right jobs. And when I got to work P2P, Dan Rogers, our founder, made it really clear, like, when someone isn't in the right position, like, move them. Don't keep trying to make them get better at something that is not going to come naturally to them. Lean into their strengths. And so I like what you said, Mark, about the observable things. I also like the sandwich approach, where you come in with something that they're doing really great. And then maybe you talk about an area that needs improvement or needs some kind of adjustability, and then you
Mhm.
come in and you sandwich it with another thing that they're doing really great, right? Because that can just make someone who might get defensive just kind of be in a more neutral state. When you think about it, like, so much of life happens when we're working together. I mean, even now in a post-pandemic world where we're more remote, at least at our company we are, but even, like, I can remember being in the workplace and, like, learning about hard things. Like, I can remember I was on a meeting and my screen was up and my Facebook account was up for whatever reason. I'm sure because I was doing work on it, right? Not personal. But I learned the fact, that a friend of mine had passed that I'd known from
Oh,
high school while I was, in a one-on-one meeting with someone, because that just happened to be up on my desk, right? Which is a hard way to get that kind of information and in front of a coworker. And so, like, life happens. I can also remember getting calls, like, there was an emergency with my kid in junior high and I had to race out. Like, so when the people that you work with, I don't think they necessarily become your family, because your family is a totally different entity and you treat family members differently. But, like,
mhm.
your teammates are people that you want to show up for and you want to do your best, right? You want to make sure you're all rowing in the same direction. And I tend to land in the companies that I've been in throughout my adult career. I tend to land in positions of leadership, probably because I'm bossy, and like being the motivator or the cheerleader. At King 5, they would refer to me as the director of fun. It doesn't mean I was fun all the time. I'm sure people have stories of times I was very much not fun, but it's just that bringing that enthusiasm into a room. But, like, I have also learned over the years that with that power, the my ability to come into a room and bring the vibration up, unfortunately, I also have the power of coming into a room and bringing the vibration down, because I'm that my energy is, like, right there. right? And so I have to be really cognizant of that, that if I'm not in a great space, I maybe need to opt out of a situation, or make myself unavailable, because I could end up doing more damage because I just need some of my own alone processing time. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but like I just think there's a lot of different nuances to it. But overall, it's about being thoughtful and to a certain extent being of service to the people around you.